the moment the judge said, "All assets to the husband." My ex smiled at me like I was finished. I smiled back, because that was the exact second my revenge became inevitable. I met him when I had nothing but hope and a borrowed car. I was 26, tired. Soft in the places life had already bruised me. He was charming in a quiet way. Not loud. Not flashy. The kind of man who listens just enough to make you feel seen. He told me I was different. I believed him. We built our life slowly. Small apartment. Cheap furniture. Late night dinners on the floor. I worked 2 jobs while he figured things out. I paid the rent. I paid the bills. I told myself this is what love looks like when you believe in someone. When he finally got his business idea, I was the first one to say yes. I emptied my savings without hesitation. I signed papers I didn't fully understand because he said, "Trust me." So I did. Years passed. The business grew. So did his confidence. And somehow, as his world got bigger, I got smaller. But I stayed, because I thought loyalty meant patience, and patience meant love. Until the first red flag slipped in so quietly I almost missed it. It started with jokes. Little comments in front of friends. "She's bad with money. She doesn't really understand business." Everyone laughed. I smiled too. But something inside me tightened. Then came the control. He insisted on handling all finances. "It's easier this way," he said. "You trust me, right?" I did, again. My name slowly disappeared from accounts, from decisions, from conversations. When I asked questions, he sighed like I was exhausting. When I pushed back, he called me emotional. When I cried, he called me dramatic. And somehow I started apologizing. The gaslighting was subtle, professional, like he had practiced. If I felt neglected, it was my insecurity. If I felt ignored, I was imagining things. If I felt afraid, I was overreacting. Then the late nights started, the phone always face down. Passwords changed, smiles that didn't reach his eyes. I asked him once, calmly, if there was someone else. He laughed. Actually laughed. Then said, "You really think anyone would choose you over me?" That sentence stayed with me, burned into me. Still I stayed. Because leaving felt like failure. And I wasn't ready to face that. Until the night everything collapsed. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. I was just looking for a receipt. His laptop was open. Email notifications popping up. My name wasn't on any of them. Her name was. At first, I thought it was business. Then I read one message, then another. Then my hands started shaking. They weren't hiding. They weren't careful. They were confident. Plans, trips, jokes about me. One message said, "She'll sign anything. She always does." I don't remember sitting down. I just remember being on the floor, cold, quiet. When he came home, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I asked him one question. "Are you in love with her?" He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize. He just said, "This marriage has been over for a long time." That was the moment I understood something important. I wasn't his partner. I was his investment. And he was done cashing me in. The divorce was fast, efficient, cruel. He had lawyers. I had shock. Every document I signed years ago came back to haunt me. Every ounce of trust I gave him turned into leverage against me. The house, his. The business, his. The savings, his. The judge looked at me like I should have known better. Like love was a mistake I deserved to pay for. When it was over, my ex leaned close and whispered, "You'll be fine. You're good at starting over." I walked out with nothing. No assets, no home, no marriage. And everyone thought I was broken. That's when I went quiet. I let him think I was defeated. I let him think I was weak. I let him enjoy his victory. But silence does something powerful. It sharpens you. I replayed every conversation, every contract, every detail I ignored. And then I remembered something he forgot. The one thing he never cared enough to understand. Years ago, before the business, before the marriage, before everything, I had created something. A framework, an idea, a system that later became the backbone of his success. I never put my name on it, because I trusted him. But I kept records. Drafts, emails, timestamps. And more importantly, I knew exactly how it worked. He took everything in the divorce, including responsibility. I waited. Months passed. Then cracks appeared. Clients complained, systems failed. Money started bleeding. He reached out once, just once. "You wouldn't happen to remember how this part works?" Would you? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, I'm not sure what you mean. That's when the real work began. I didn't attack him directly. I didn't expose him publicly. I didn't need to. I rebuilt quietly, under my own name. I contacted people he had burned, clients he dismissed, partners he betrayed. I told the truth, just facts, no emotions. Doors opened fast. Within a year, I had something better than what he stole. Something cleaner, something honest. And then? His world collapsed. Lawsuits, audits, losses he couldn't explain. The system he owned no longer worked without me, and legally. It never belonged to him in the first place. The final blow came quietly, a certified letter, a claim, evidence he couldn't argue with. He called me, begging this time. Said my name like it used to mean something. Said he was sorry. Said he made a mistake. I listened, I didn't interrupt. Then I said, you took everything because you thought I was nothing. And I hung up. Now I live peacefully, not loudly, not bitter. Just free. He still watches from a distance. Still wonders how he lost everything he thought he owned. And sometimes I think about that day in court. That smile on his face. He had no idea what he was really taking. And that's why he lost it all. After I hung up that call, my hands were steady. That's how I knew I was finally done. But his downfall didn't end there. That was just the beginning. He tried to rebuild without me. Different advisors. New consultants. Fresh faces. But none of them understood the core. None of them could fix what I had designed from the inside out. Behind the scenes, people started asking questions. Quiet ones at first, then louder. Where did the original model come from? Why didn't the documentation match his claims? Why did every early email trace back to me? He panicked. I could hear it in his voice the next time he called. He wasn't confident anymore. He wasn't charming, he sounded small. I never meant to hurt you, he said. I was under pressure. We can fix this together. Together. That word almost made me laugh. I told him nothing, because silence hurts more than any insult. Weeks later, the news broke quietly, no headlines. No drama, just a slow, professional collapse. Major clients pulled out, investors froze funding, legal notices stacked up. The business he once bragged about at dinner parties. Gone. The house he kicked me out of. Sold, not by choice. The woman he left me for. She disappeared the moment the money did. I heard from a mutual friend that she told people. He changed. He became bitter. She wasn't wrong, he did change. Because for the first time in his life, he had to face something he couldn't manipulate. Consequences. One evening, months later, I ran into him unexpectedly. A coffee shop. He looked older. Thinner. Like life had finally spoken back. He saw me and froze. Then forced a smile. You look good, he said. I nodded. I didn't compliment him back. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said it. I thought I won. There it was. The truth he never meant to say out loud. I looked at him. Really looked, and I realized something that shocked even me. I didn't hate him anymore, because hate requires connection, and he had none left. I let you win, I said calmly. You needed to believe you had everything. His face tightened. He finally understood. You planned this, he asked. I shook my head. No, you did. Every time you underestimated me. That was the last conversation we ever had. Today, I wake up in a home that's mine, built on my terms, protected by my name. I don't check his social media. I don't ask about his life. But sometimes people still message me. They ask how I survived losing everything. How I stayed calm. How I came back stronger. I never explain. Because the truth is simple. He took everything he could see. And left behind the one thing that made it all possible, me. And once I stopped giving myself away, he had nothing left to steal. Years passed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly enough to feel real. His name stopped coming up in conversations. That's how I knew he was truly finished. When people stop warning you about someone, it means they're no longer a threat. Mine kept rising, not in headlines, in rooms that mattered. I built things slowly this time, with contracts that protected me, with partners who listened when I spoke, with my name where it belonged. Every signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. One afternoon, an envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Just my name. Written carefully. Inside was a letter, his handwriting. He wrote about regret, about sleepless nights, about how he finally understood what he lost. He said the money never mattered, that the power was empty. That watching me disappear from his life was the punishment he never expected. There was one line I read twice. "You were the only thing that was real." I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and locked it away. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. That's the part no one talks about. The moment someone who broke you no longer has access to your emotions. That's freedom. Sometimes I think about the version of me who walked out of that courtroom. The woman everyone pitied. The woman they thought had lost. I wish I could tell her something. Not that it gets better, not that time heals everything. But this: let them take what they think is valuable. Let them feel powerful. Let them celebrate too early. Because people like him don't steal things. They steal people. And the day you stop letting yourself be taken is the day they realize they were never rich at all. He took everything in the divorce, on paper. But I walked away with the only thing that lasts. Myself. And that was the one thing he could never own. Even now. Long after the dust settled, the story still isn't over, not for him. Because loss doesn't hit people like him all at once. It arrives in waves. Quiet. Humiliating. I heard through people I barely know that he tried to tell his version of the story. How I turned cold. How I walked away. How he was blindsided. But there's a problem with lies. They need an audience. And slowly his disappeared. Old friends stopped answering his calls. Former partners avoided his name. People who once praised him now spoke carefully, like they were ashamed they ever trusted him. Reputations don't shatter in one moment, they rot. From the inside. One day, a junior employee from his old company reached out to me. We had never spoken before. She said, "I just wanted you to know everything makes sense now." I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. She told me about the fear, the manipulation, the credit he took for work that wasn't his. She ended the message with one sentence. "You survived what we couldn't." That stayed with me. Because for the first time, I realized my silence hadn't just protected me, it exposed him. Not loudly, not violently. Truth doesn't need to scream, it just needs time. Another year passed. Then another. I stopped measuring my life by what I lost. I measured it by what no longer drained me. No walking on eggshells. No explaining my worth. No shrinking to make someone else feel tall. Peace is addictive once you taste it. Then, unexpectedly, he showed up again. Not in person, in court, a desperate attempt to reclaim something, anything. A claim with no evidence, an argument with no spine. He looked at me across the room like he was searching for the woman who used to beg him to listen. She wasn't there. The judge didn't take long, neither did I. When it was over, he avoided my eyes, I didn't avoid his. Not out of anger, out of clarity. As we passed each other, he whispered, "You didn't have to destroy me." I stopped, turned. Spoke quietly. "I didn't destroy you, I just stopped protecting you." His face collapsed, because he knew. I walked out without looking back. That's the thing people misunderstand about revenge like this. It's not about winning. It's about ending the lie. He needed me to be small so he could feel powerful. He needed my silence to hide his theft. He needed my loyalty to escape accountability. And the moment I took myself back, everything he built on top of me collapsed. So when people hear the title of my story, they assume it's about money, assets, divorce. It's not. It's about the danger of underestimating the person who carried you, loved you, believed in you. Because when they finally let go, they don't fall, they rise. And the ones who took everything, they spend the rest of their lives trying to understand how winning still felt like losing. I don't talk about him anymore. Not because I'm afraid, but because he no longer lives in my present. Still, his shadow shows up sometimes. In the way people pause when they hear my last name. In the way new partners ask, gently, "What happened before?" I tell them the truth. But I don't bleed while telling it. That's how I know I've healed. The last time I heard anything about him was from someone who didn't even know our history. They mentioned his name casually, like it didn't carry weight. "He used to be someone," they said. Not sure what happened. I didn't correct them. Because that sentence said everything. People like him spend their whole lives chasing control. Over money, over people, over narratives. But control is fragile. It only works as long as someone else agrees to give it. I stopped agreeing. Sometimes, late at night, I think back to that courtroom, the smell of polished wood. The sound of my own heartbeat when everything was taken from me. I remember how empty my hands felt, how exposed, how small. And I think about what would have happened if I had fought louder. If I had begged. If I had tried to win. The way he did, I would have lost myself. Instead, I walked away carrying something invisible, knowledge, patience, and the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. He thought he took everything. He thought I was finished. But what he really took was responsibility. For the systems he didn't understand, for the lies he couldn't maintain, for a life he was never capable of sustaining alone. I took my time, I rebuilt in silence, I let results speak. And now, when I sit in rooms where decisions are made, no one questions my presence, no one talks over me, no one mistakes my calm for weakness. Because power doesn't need to prove itself. He wanted ownership, I wanted freedom. He got what he asked for. So did I. And if there's one thing I know for sure now, it's this. When someone takes everything from you, and you still stand, it means you were always the source. And once you understand that, no one can ever take anything from you again. The truth is, I didn't win the day the judge ruled against me. I won much later. I won the day I stopped explaining myself. I won the day I stopped needing validation. I won the day I realized my silence scared him more than my anger ever could. Because anger gives people something to fight. Silence gives them nothing. He still tells people I ruined him, that I was cold, calculating, cruel. He needs that story, because the alternative is admitting he destroyed himself. And I let him have it. I don't correct lies anymore. I don't defend my name. I don't chase closure. Closure is overrated. Peace isn't. Every once in a while, I catch my reflection and I see her. The woman who trusted too easily, loved too deeply, signed papers without reading the fine print. I don't judge her. She didn't fail. She learned. And that lesson cost him everything. So when people hear the title of this story, they expect fireworks, screaming, public humiliation. They don't understand. The most devastating revenge doesn't look like revenge at all. It looks like absence. It looks like success without apology. It looks like never needing to say his name again. He took everything in the divorce. The house, the money, the comfort. But he also took something else. The illusion that he was self-made. And once that illusion shattered, there was nothing left holding him up. I kept walking, forward, quietly, relentlessly. And that's the ending he will never recover from. There's a strange peace that comes when a chapter doesn't need another word. But some endings echo. And this one still does. Not because of him. Because of who I became. I learned to recognize power that doesn't raise its voice. To spot manipulation before it speaks. To trust my instincts instead of silencing them to keep someone comfortable. That divorce stripped me down to the bones. And when there's nothing left to lose, you stop being afraid. He used to tell me I'd never survive without him. That I needed his structure, his guidance, his name. What he never understood was this: I was already surviving him. Now, when I sit alone in the quiet I once feared, it doesn't feel empty, it feels earned. I don't rush decisions anymore. I don't hand over control just to feel loved. I don't confuse attention with respect. And every once in a while, I hear about him trying to start again. New ideas, new promises, new people, same pattern. Some people don't change because change requires accountability, and accountability requires humility. He never had that. So this is where my story ends. Not with revenge. Not with rage, but with certainty. He took everything he could legally touch, and still walked away bankrupt. I walked away with nothing. And built a life no one can ever take from me again. That's the part he'll never understand. And the part I no longer need him to. Because the moment he thought he took everything, was the moment I finally got it all.